if they don't want to on their own
They-
property?
We can't.
We can.
We can in town.
Yeah,
and
but I
we
mean,
do.
This water line going out there, you're talking
We
about-
can't mandate anybody. The county's got to do it.
County's gotta issue
They've got to
You
mandate
can
it.
actually do that on your own property if you have a good well and you great water.
Yes.
You
Now,
have to hook up to the.
You don't physically have to hook on. You do not have to hook on. However, you still get a bill every month. There'll be a meter set out in front of your property, and you would get a minimum water bill every month. Yeah.
Now, what about those that, and this is a dumb question, what about those that are currently there? Are they grandfathered or you must connect?
No, like I said, nobody physically. I can't go on someone's property without a court order and saying I'm disconnecting you from your well. We try to entice, and certainly this worked in Amelia, and that's where it all came from. We try to entice folks by saying we will waive the tap fee. We will make the connection at our expense, running the water line to the house. We will disconnect you from your well. All those kinds of things. If you come back 2 years later and say, you know, my well's really bad, I want to get on the system now, then you'd be responsible for the construction cost and the tap fees.
Honestly, I guess I'm wondering in my mind,
Mm-hmm.
from what I've learned in conversations and reading and paper and all, we're having all this uncertainty about this, but the piping from the source of water for the town to the water plant is like 80 years old. Is that right?
It was built in 1942. That's correct.
I mean, so I don't understand, I guess, why we're pondering whether or not to run a new line when we.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the issue came up because the residents came to us, and it was a healthy. The water was really looked like iced tea. It's not good water in that area. The wells are not in good condition, and I can tell you the wells don't have a lot of capacity. A lot of the wells are not in good condition because they're old bored wells. If you ever see somebody with a concrete pipe in their yard, that's a shallow bored well, and typically they are susceptible to seepage, and
They
typically
can't even wash the clothes.
Huh?
They can't even use their water to wash the clothes.
it's pretty bad up there. They came to us and said, we'd like to have the town run water lines to it. So we got a cost estimate, went back to it. But as it stands right now, we don't have a product.
It's a
Let's them change
20-year
it.
fight been going on, isn't it?
Pardon?
It's been about a 20-year fight they've been trying to get water out there, haven't they?
Well, it started, I think, if Mr. Vaughn is correct, I think it was 16, 18 years ago, almost 20 years ago. The town of Blackstone wrote a DHCD called a self-help grant and received it, and it meant that the property owners had to do certain things like assist with helping with some of the construction or helping to dig some of the laterals going to the houses and that sort of thing. And it was during a terrible drought in 2003. I wasn't in the water business, but apparently the reservoir got really low and crew was on its last leg as far as water as well. And it started raining, and then the property owner said, we don't want it. Now, they did a survey. 30 people responded to the survey, and I think it's 22 or 20 in favor and like 10 that were not in favor. So those are numbers that they've got. But that's where Cox Road is. It's limbo. It's kind of sitting. Okay? And I know I'm on a clock here. Aeration system. Okay? Aeration system. If you drive across the reservoir at Fort Pickett and you look to your right, if you're going to Lawrenceville, and you look to your right, you'll see bubbles, boop, 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 coming out of the water. That system broke down last year, about this time last year, and ceased to work altogether. Ed Harris, a water operator, came to me and said, I really need that fixed. That has got to work. And so we went back and we figured out what it would cost. We had ARPA money to use, okay? However, in the meantime, in January 12th last year, staff applied for about $12 million of water line, a 50% grant, 50% loan package through ARPA money that was being offered by the health department, and included the replacement of that line from the reservoir to the treatment plant. Well, a year later, we still haven't been told. And a year later, we took $567,000 out of pocket and paid for that aeration system. Well, that's not the end of the world because we paid for it and we're all okay. But it took money away from other projects where we're replacing water meters in town and putting the nodes on so we can electronically read water meters instead of physically having to go each meter every month. We'll be able to read them just like we do your electric meter. It'll be read from a laptop in a pickup truck. And that's been an ongoing project we've been working on for several years. I think we have either one or two books, maybe just be one book. If you walk in front of Trend, you'll see a new plastic census node on top, and that's one of the new ones, and we're doing it by books. I think there's 7 utility reading books in town, and we're doing it by that. But that ARPA money we used for the aeration was earmarked for these meters, and the bill finally showed it. It took almost a year for the meters to get here, as they started showing up, you guys approved an invoice, if you remember, last month. It was over $204,000 to Core and Main, and that was for those, and I'm calling them meters, but it's a reading node that attaches to the meter. In order to pay those invoices, I went to Benchmark Bank and tapped into, and I spoke with the finance committee, two gentlemen that I knew were going to be on the finance committee, and I spoke to the mayor briefly. We took $204,000 out of our $400,000 line of credit to pay that Core and Main invoice. Now, I will tell you this, I didn't do it flippantly, and it wasn't a coincidence because I did speak with the health department on last week, and I said, you got to tell me, did we get this money or did we not get this? We're a year into this. We borrowed from ourselves. What have we got? And we did not get the money for the raw water line, and we did not get money for Taylor's Bottom, which was also included in there. But we did get funded for aeration. It's not formal. They haven't gotten a written notification. That was just a little bird on a window over at the health department who helps me out. So once I knew that logically that money is coming, I went to the bank and borrowed that money. And when I say it, we have a $400,000 line of credit that we set up several years ago to help with VDOT projects. VDOT is a little different than a lot of these agencies. VDOT requires a paid receipt. You got to pay it up front, and then they'll reimburse you on these street projects. And most of Main Street has been a revenue sharing project, which is a 50-50 deal. So when we go out and pay a $300,000 invoice, we're paying it out of pocket with the expectation that VDOT's going to pay us back as soon as they get it. They've been pretty good about reimbursing. They were terrible about reimbursing on the sidewalks around the ball field, and that was a 50-50. I wouldn't say 50-50 because the price ended up being much higher, but we wrote about $500,000 of grants to get the sidewalks around the ball fields down there in that part of town. I'm rambling a little bit, but the reason we went to the bank and borrowed $204,000 is because I needed to pay for those meters.
Any questions so far?
And the meter money went into the aeration system. So it's our expectation once we get that closed, we'll get a check for $567,000, and we can pay off the line of credit, and we can put cash back into the ARPA to pay for the rest of the meters. Okay. All right, moving on. MUMS, Mixed Use Main Street, is a new program that the Department of Housing and Community Development has announced this year. And MUMS is an enticement to find older or dilapidated buildings in your downtown. It is encouraging people to do mixed use, which includes residential and commercial in the building. When they announced this, Chastity and Jennifer Hardy, I think, also both went to the seminar. And as soon as I heard about it, I thought immediately of the Dillard Crawley building. The Dillard Crawley building is the old antique, or the old Blackstone Mall. I think it's 14,000 square feet. We've got some diagrams. Frank DiStefano provided some diagrams. That building is in atrocious condition. I have declared it blighted. I haven't gone through the process with you guys, but we have sent several letters, one of which has been received by the property owner, about the windows falling out of the back and breaking, and it's just a train wreck. The week after Christmas, the mayor, myself, Chastity, an appraiser, the building official, the real estate agent that has the building, and a gentleman who has interest in purchasing the building long term. We toured the building, and tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'm meeting with the state fire marshal because of the grave concerns our building official has about the building. I can tell you the report is going to come back probably fairly negative about the condition of the building. The fire sprinkler system is not turned on, and I think there's going to be an appreciable amount of work that needs to be done in order to secure that building. It is a fire trap. It's a fire hazard, big time. We hadn't acted on it sooner because there was a contract to purchase that building. A lady named Ann Hyatt had a contract to purchase the building, and she came to see us several times. Frank DiStefano was working there with her, and the end result was she did not perform on the contract. So I said, well, I'm not blowing up somebody's private deal. We're going to move forward. This month program is a $500,000 grant that would assist in acquisition and stabilization of the building. And part of what we're doing right now is we have an appraiser, a gentleman named Olin Hardy, is going to give us a structural evaluation and an appraisal of the structure on February 1st. And I'll probably ask you guys on the 23rd, but I can tell you we're going to ask for $500,000 with the intention of purchasing the Dillard Crawley building using that grant fund and stabilizing it with the roof fire sprinklers, all those kinds of things. It would be a grant fund. I'm not asking you for any local dollars to do it. I don't know a better solution.
Clarify that, you're saying that the $500,000 grant would be to just purchase the building? Or
No,
that
no,
would
no,
be
no,
to
no, no,
purchase
no.
the building and
That's why we're having an appraiser look at it. He may come back at $150,000.
just throwing $500,000?
No, the reason we're doing an appraisal is twofold. One, do we want to make a bona fide offer to the gentleman? And number two, if we end up going to court because he rejects all of our overtures, which he has so far, and we go to court, I'm sure if town council is asked to use its eminent domain powers, condemnation, there's going to need to be a fair market price for it as
Ask
well.
you if you don't mind.
Mhm.
That building's connected to a good portion of downtown businesses.
It's
I-
dramatic.
You've been in there and you're gonna be in there with the fire marshal. Are we gonna look at how, if those businesses are in immediate danger?
The businesses are in immediate danger, I can tell you that right now. Yep.
So,
If the walls collapse or the roof collapses, I don't know what it'll do to the adjoining walls because they're common walls. I can tell you now, downtown is in immediate danger.
so let me, what you're talking about with a grant sounds like a long-term solution. What's the short-term solution?
I don't think this gentleman's going to do any work. I think you're going to have to play it out in the court system. So I think the quickest way for us to get in there and be able to do something on the building, I have no confidence this gentleman's going to do anything to his property. I think the quickest thing to do would be to buy it. That's the quickest thing to do. Short term, I just don't know. Without a judge's order, I really can't go in there and touch that building or do anything to it.
And I hate the town, I would rather the owner do something. And then my second option would be is that we would have to condemn it. I don't like us taking town dollars, I know it's not town dollars, it's grant money, and saying, all right, well, we're just gonna make you an offer and buy it.
Right.
It's convoluted, but I know it's gotta be done.
The quickest way to resolve it is make an offer. Gentlemen, accept the offer, give it a 30-day closing, and close on the damn thing.
Let me ask you this, have you sent him letters about the condition and the danger?
I have.
2 certified letters.
Yeah, 2 certified letters.
Any
One
response?
came back unaccepted, and the other one, the realtor confirmed that he had received it.
Any response?
Nothing. That's why I think there's no plan on his part. So in order to do it to avoid court, I think a bona fide offer with reimbursement from the state. That's the quickest I can move on it without going to court.
Do you need any action from council tonight?
Not right now. On the 23rd, I'll report to you a little bit more about what's
I
going
would
on.
like common consent that we're agreeable to the actions that he has taken. Is there any indigestion? Anybody have any problem with it?
And I'm sure there'll be a letter from the fire marshal sent to the property owner as a result of tomorrow's inspection. Building officials deeply concerned. And, I mean, there's nothing obvious, but the fire sprinklers aren't working. It's open to the elements. The roof is leaking. It's very wet inside. And there's evidence of some collapsing on not the roof necessarily, but the ceiling between the first and second floor.
If that comes down, it's gonna pull the other.
Could very well, yeah.
Well, you'll have-
They're married walls,
Yeah.
next, so that's what the issue is.
you'll
Just
ha-
for my education purposes, and maybe this might help some of the others,
Mm-hmm.
will you need approval, you need council to make a motion to approve your, submitting to the grant, or is this something that?
No, I'll bring it to you next month for a motion. And the way I've been handling it is I get a motion to authorize the application. Certainly if there's a match, but we get an authorization to apply, and then we have an authorization to accept, okay, and execute document.
What about any kind of motions to, enter negotiations to make an offer or, depending on fire marshal's report for any court action or eminent domain?
Well, between now and the 23rd, I'm waiting on an appraisal. I don't know what to offer somebody. But the appraisal has been signed, and he's working on it, and it really started with D. Duncanson, who worked with this gentleman, but this gentleman is more versed on commercial buildings and stuff of this sort. So he will be with us with the fire marshal tomorrow at 10 a.m., the appraiser.
All right, so we'll have some options later in the month then.
Pardon?
We'll have options later in the month.
On the 23rd, hopefully we'll have some numbers for you.
Any other questions on this issue? Thank you, sir. Continue on.
Taylor Bottom. Loyette, Taylor Bottom. There are many folks, and we've spoke to many folks for several years about a block grant program being offered in the Taylor Bottom neighborhood. We're currently working in East End, which is Mr. Miller's neighborhood. Previously, we did Second and Third Street. Years ago, we did Fall Street, those kind of things. We do them a little different. We fix the streets up now and get the water and sewer done at the same time. It's our expectation that we're going to bring to you very soon an application for a planning grant for Taylor Bottom, which will put our program. We'll do interviews with the residents, the same process we did with Mr. Miller, and then we'll find out what the priorities are, and try to do that. We've already done some work down there with a PER that we prepared in order for us to apply for that health department grant money. So we've already done a PER using ARPA money for the Taylor Bottom area. We don't have any immediate concerns, but there are two concerns. One's a health-related issue. Because of the age of the lines, I think many of the service lines have lead goosenecks. Okay, we're not finding that we're having high lead counts like Flint, Michigan, or anything like that. But because of the age, there are lead goosenecks in that system, and lead goosenecks are an S-shaped tap that they used years ago, and those are made out of lead. So we want to get those out of the system. Number two, simply the age of the sewer system. It's still, anytime you see a sewer line with brick manholes, it tells you it's probably beyond its replacement capacity. It started using concrete manholes back in the 70s. And we have an expectation that our infrastructure will last 50 years, water and sewer. Okay. And there are brick manholes in Taylor Bottom. So there's some replacement repair, and it would be the setup for a block grant application, just like we did in East End and we did on West End, where there would be a housing component. I think drainage is kind of high on a lot of people's list over there. I think several people have complained that the little creek and water and wetness and that sort of thing. So,
Blackwell's house is serious.
yeah. And if you remember in your neighborhood, Carolyn, we piped in that big ditch between 2nd and 3rd Street between Amelia and Green. And if you remember, that was a big old ravine down through there, and we did pipe that in. So we're going to do a planning grant, get that process started, start building some funds, get some cash put together, and make an application. This time next year, we'll be putting in for a construction application for housing and drainage. Okay. East End. We had 2 phases of East End. Okay, and East End is the project in Mr. Miller's ward. This second phase is what we're in. The first phase is complete. We did several homes over there. We did streets, curb and gutter, replacement water and sewer lines. The second phase, we've already replaced the water and sewer lines. We had 11 residences that we had to renovate or build new, and we're complete with 10. We have one last to go over on Harris Street, and we need to discuss and look at the budget, see how much is left. In that grant, which was $1,250,000 for that second phase, and it was $1,250,000 for the first phase. And the second phase, water, sewer, housing, and the last component is streets. We've already bid out the asphalt, and we've got a contractor of record, Southern Paving from Powhatan. I think we approved November-ish or thereabouts. We have a bid out right now, a sealed bid, and we had a pre-bid meeting yesterday, if Mr. Miller attended, and we had 2 contractors come to that meeting, and we expect on the 18th to receive sealed bids for curb and gutter, just like we did in the first phase, like we did on portions of 2nd Street. Curb and gutter, not so much the paving, but some base asphalt to fill in some utility cuts and that sort of thing. I'm hoping we've got enough money. I can tell you I've got $765,000 saved up, and we hope that the bids come in. Cross our fingers. Engineer's estimate's a little bit higher than that, so we'll find out.
If you would humor me, sir, I will add a few minutes to your time if I need to.
Mhm.
But speaking of Mr. Miller's ward and paving and curbing and gutter, you shared with me a project that you would like to do, a very inexpensive project,
Okay.
adjacent to the Patriot Square.
Right.
I had to, Mr. Gormas and I met, and I wrote him over there. So if I'm not putting this out here, you can help me explain. But traveling down Dinwiddie Avenue toward Fort Pickett, you take a right-hand turn on Epps Street, and you come up Epps Street, and to the left would be Patriot Square.
Right.
During the project, the contractor that did pay, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the contractor already put curb and gutter on his side of the property.
Right.
His side, plus he did Tavern Street
Right.
Right.
at his expense,
Right.
if you remember.
But that looks to me like, in my personal opinion, a gateway to all this great work we've done in the ward. And
And
that
the
side of the
project.
street is not curbed and guttered. And, the manager was explaining to me that we can use, it won't be a whole lot of engineering because we can include it in the East End project, and.
And we can use the linear feet unit cost from the project. And I've talked to Jake, I think, about it, and a couple others. The policy right now is that the property owner would have to pay for half of the cost. And it looks like curb and gutter is going at about $55, $60 a linear foot. So they'd be required for $30 per foot. And I don't think it's practical at this point to go to those folks. I know we talked a little bit about it, but I've spoken to one of the property owners, and I don't think they're terribly agreeable. We do give them an option to put a lien on the property, and that's not well received on many occasions. I don't think people understand it necessarily, but we do a 0% lien for an indeterminate amount of time for their portion. I think the mayor just put curb and gutter on Virginia Avenue next to his house, and it was $6,000 to him, and he signed the lien, and we put the lien on the property.
But we have on Nottaway Avenue and some other places when it was for the benefit of the community, did not charge the homeowner. And in my opinion, all the work that was done over there, which I'm very excited about, I would like, if you provide us with a dollar figure, I would ask council to consider to go ahead and do both sides of the road. It will change the Patriot Square, it'll change that neighborhood. And what was the cost?
One thing, too, to keep in mind, nobody in that neighborhood paid for curb and gutter. That was all 100% paid for by grant monies and by VDOT street improvement monies. Nobody paid, but if we do this, because it's not technically part of the project area, because the project area didn't include Ep Street, they would have to add a pocket pay, whereas nobody else in the neighborhood had to pay for it. The project we're doing now, nobody will have to pay for it. So I would ask for you to consider paying for the curb and gutter on the opposite side of Patriot Square without charge to the property owners. They would be the only block over in that whole project area that would pay for curb and gutter in front of their home. I'm a curb and gutter advocate, and I think it would be a help. We haven't done much for Patriot Square. We've done a lot of work with Raj. We've helped Dave McCormick dramatically. But Patriot Square hasn't asked us for a whole lot, and I would ask that you guys give that due consideration, and it'll make the project area, obviously in front of people's houses, look better, but it also will tie in the asphalt and it'll look much better going in there.
The only street that would not have curb and gutter if this goes through is Hurt Street.
Hurt Street. Hurt Street would not still have curb and gutter. And there's 3 houses, I think, on Hurt Street, and certainly 2 on that front on Hurt Street, and that would be and it's 1 block of Hurt Street.
Well, it's 3. It's 4 houses on Hurt Street. You got 3 coming on the left-hand side. I think you got 1 on the other side.
Okay, then it'd be more. But that at this point, I think Patriot Square is a justification to do that curb and gutter on that far side, and we would use the same unit prices that the rest of the project would have, so it would be less. We have a annual concrete contract, and I think it's $70 a linear foot on the annual contract because it's much smaller amounts. Let's see what comes in with on the 18th bid wise, and then I'll tell you what the cost would be.
What dollar amount are you thinking?
Usually a block is 400 feet long, so 400 times, let's say 60.
$25,000?
At least, yeah. And plus driveways, and there may be 1 drop inlet, and I would say plus $8,000 for the drop inlet.
So what do we guess, $32,000?
$35,000.
$35,000. Is this something that the council is interested in?
They pay for the other side already, right?
The contractor.
The contractor, the developer paid for it.
So that's 50-50 anyway.
I've never
Is it-
seen an estimate before any commitment.
Okay.
Let's find out what the per foot cost is.
And, obviously, you just had a little yanks about what your paving estimate's gonna be. So I'd like to see what our all-in price.
We'll have to, there'll be some base asphalt along the shoulders and then additional top coat, so yeah, you can find out.
But I'm not
But see,
seeing
Dillon Street, the Dillon Street's gonna have to be paved anyway, and Broad Street's gonna have to be paved.
Broad Street's gonna be paved?
And Dillard and Broad Street, cause that's where we catching all the hell from the people.
But there's gonna be 1 block in Dillard from Fitzgerald to Tavern that'll be paved. Harris Street from Irving
Right.
to Broad Street will be paved, and then Tavern and Broad, both north and south side, between Dillard and Harris.
I guess I'm asking for common consent to move forward, to get an estimate. If somebody's like, oh, no, then I don't wanna do that and put him through the rigors of getting that. So by common consent, can we authorize him to get us a price?
I mean, in my opinion, having seen the difference in what's going on with Patriot there versus right across the
Right.
road, it's different night and day. I mean,
You saw it, yeah, you
give
drove
it
over
more
there.
consideration. I mean,
Yes.
find out
Okay.
We would.
I'll bring you an estimate, and I'd appreciate the
mad?
consideration.
You mad? No. Okay.
This is happy.
Oh, wow.
So on the 18th, we are going to open
Council
bids
so much.
for curb and gutter and drainage improvements on Tavern, Broad, Dillard, Harris, and Fitzgerald Streets. And
So I'm gonna cut you off, because I might forget, but I've asked the town manager to include me in the bid openings. There have been some rumors that, maybe the optics weren't exactly right, so to put it to bid, I want to witness these, and I believe we're gonna make provisions to have it recorded.
And so everybody knows, we don't cheat. When we open a bid, there's a witness here. We're going to start videotaping our bid openings, and all bid openings that we have, when we have a set date to be public open, we're going to videotape them, and whoever spreads such a rumor just is misinformed or a liar, one or the other. So we don't do that.
Well,
We've never done that.
If the constituents don't trust me, an election will take care of that. But
Yeah.
right now, I enjoyed tremendous support. I was
I've
blessed.
seen a
Found
few
it.
bids
We'll
open.
go that route.
Huh?
I've seen some bids open.
It's open to the public. Anybody can come.
They just throw them out on the
But a lot of
desk.
people just sit at home and complain and don't get off their duff and do their
They throw 'em out
work
on
as
the
a
desk
But
and,
hopefully this will take the
citizen.
pressure off, and
yeah.
last item that I want to talk about very quickly, and I've got 4 minutes, and the biggest one of all is the Armory. All right, the Armory, in November 2020, passed referendum that it would be renovated for a community center. Well, I can tell you, community centers do not get grant money. Okay, there's nothing there to go to the state with other than please take pity on us. Went to the council in June or May of 21 and presented a tax increase package that would to pay for the construction of the armory, and council voted not to adopt those increased rates. In 2021, during the pandemic, we received $3.5 million of ARPA money, a check for ARPA money. And that referendum said we would spend $2 million in the construction and renovation of the armory. That didn't include architecture, and that didn't include the abatement of asbestos or any of those kinds of things. We received over 2 years of checks in the amount of $3.45 million. We put that in the account and earmarked 2.25 of that ARPA money for the renovation of the armory. The $2 million that the citizens voted for, $250,000 for the architectural fees and a contingency, and subsequently we've applied for 4 grants. We've received 3 of the 4 so far. The first of which is a Virginia Economic Development Partnership grant, amount of $250,000. We received that, and that's for the removal of the asbestos underground storage tanks and lead-based paint in the building. We've opened the bids. I have a pre-construction meeting on Thursday for the underground storage tanks and for the asbestos, and we should be moving forward. I've met with Walter Mack, and I've met with the Chamber of Commerce, who had stuff in the building, but the biggest offender of stuff in the building after I went through it today is the town. We got a tremendous old antiques and desks, and it's going to be a mess. So we got to get that cleaned up, and we'll be working towards that goal to get all those things out of there. May even have an auction. I think there's enough stuff in there that we possibly could have a small auction. I don't know if you need to pay an auctioneer, but we can go up there. One of us can go up there and sell desks and chairs, and it's a lot. Second grant we applied for was a $1 million Industrial Revitalization Fund grant from the Department of Housing and Community Development, and that was announced a week after Christmas, and we received that in an amount of $1 million. Okay. Third grant we applied for was Tobacco Commission funding, and we applied in an amount of $581,000, and we received that last week. That was given to us as well. The reason we need more than the $2 million that was originally agreed upon is last summer, when the prices got so high on everything, and interest and everything just got kind of out of control, which it still is to a degree. The architects revised their estimate from $2 million to $3.8 million for the renovation of the armory.
You say you originally got 3.5 though, but you earmarked 2.25?
2.25 because,
ARPA money was for other projects.
yeah, for water meter replacement and all those kind of things. And I can give you a list of what we used the ARPA money for. I think there was a bonus for employees back in 2021, and
People's light bills, one month.
We-
for 3 months.
We wiped out light bills for folks and did stuff like that. Gave everybody a 25% discount, I think, on utility bills, stuff like that. So, budget now is about $3.8 million. The $2 million ARPA, $250,000 ARPA for architecture, $250,000 VEDP is $2.5 million, $1 million from $1 million from the IRF fund, and the $581,000 was the cap to finish the project. We have $3.8 million earmarked for the project, in excess of that.
Ultimately, some of those costs are gonna come down. I mean, it's coming down some, I think.
Okay, so total project, I think if we get our fourth grant application, and the fourth grant application that we've applied for is to the Department of Agriculture for $247,000, and that would be a rural business enterprise grant, and that would provide us with a commercial kitchen, and it would buy tables, chairs, linens, all those furnishings, and technology improvements for the building, wire it, computer labs, all those kinds of things. We've been doing pretty good. And Chastity's been doing pretty good. I'm real proud. And she's been hustling, and her connections through Virginia State and Virginia Union put the project over the top, because I wouldn't have known who to call. I could have made inquiries and that sort of thing. She actually knows the president of Virginia State. He came down to our Juneteenth celebration and all sorts of things. So she's been able to get department heads to call us back. Still a lot of work to do. Still a lot of documentation to go. But we've gotten over the biggest hurdles on the Armory, okay? So starting probably next week, we're going to close the Armory to any public activities in there, because there's going to be abatement projects, okay? And then I'll let you know when those are done. Hopefully by the time those are done, we're going to be getting closer and closer to getting into construction. The money has to be spent. The bulk of it, the ARPA money, has to be spent by 2024, okay? September 2024, I believe, is our drop dead date that we have to have that money gone, okay?
Any questions about the Armory? Do you have any other items? Or?
Two items very quickly, and these are pending or potential projects, one of which is South Main Street. Town Council has voted previously, so you know, to extend curb and gutter and sidewalk on the west side. I know there's all kinds of contingency, and should it be the east side, the west side? The least expensive side is the west side, and that's why Town Council decided at the time that they voted and authorized me to move forward with putting curb and gutter and sidewalk on the west side of Main Street with a crosswalk at the traffic signal at Walmart. Okay, it's our expectation that we're going to make an application for a revenue share projects, and I think those are due in February for a 50-50 deal if we can get those. It's going to take me that long to save $800,000. That was the last cost estimate I received. So we'll be moving forward with that. Brown Street parking lot, I intend on asking council to consider a project that's been 2 or 3 years in the making, and we've put it off for a couple of years because we couldn't afford it. We do have a lease with the railroad, and the parking area where the gentleman washes cars and next to the railroad track, we have a lease on that property. In fact, you guys authorized a renewal of the lease at a higher rate. If you remember, last month it went from $2,000 to $3,200. There's a 24 or 25 parking space parking lot that's designed to go over there. There's no grant money, but I would, unless something changes, and Jake and I spoke earlier today, that we don't know what the economy is going to look like or how much money we're going to have to be able to put toward the budget. But that is a project that's out there, and it would be my expectation if the mixed use on Main Street were to go forward. Remember, those are apartments, and there's going to be needs parking, and that would be an overflow parking for that. That is all.
All right. Thank you so much. Is there any questions?
Yeah, how's the concession stand coming?
Concession stand. Concession stand is built. However, it is a shell. Okay. The next thing that we need to do is Andre needs to go ahead and get the water and sewer lines run to it. If you notice on the south side of the concession stand, there's some utility stubs under that sidewalk. We need to go ahead and get those utilities done so that we can get out of the grass. And we're trying to grow grass over there. Greg Young is helping us, trying to get the football field growing. Surprisingly, and this may be a leading question of yours, but Board of Supervisors adopted last night a calendar for their budget. And in reading it, by the end of the week, budget requests are supposed to be submitted to, from what I'm seeing, on the 13th, we're supposed to have our budget requests submitted to the county if we have anything. The chairman of our finance committee limited me to no more than $10,000 for the renovations of the concession stand. I think it's going to take more than that.
It's gonna cost more than that.
Yeah, But what Mr. Miller did apply last year for $50,000 from the county, and it was not approved. I would say, not having anything else to ask him for money right now, but just thinking that is a previous project, and I would like to ask the county for $50,000 to help us finish the Nottaway Gators concession stand.
Let me know when you wanna do that, so I can be.
And if it's okay with council, you can do it by common consent. I'd like to resuscitate Mr. Miller's request last year and ask him for $50,000 to finish that concession stand.
You think it's gonna be to finish it? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
We spent 66 on the shell. $66,000 is what it took to build what's there. But you walk in there, it's concrete wall or concrete floor and cinder block walls. We really haven't gotten started on doing any of that stuff.
Gators have, put it on their mind that they know they gonna have to buy some stuff too.
You got buy ice machine and stuff like that. So just putting counters in, lumber, all that kind of stuff. If
I
it's
would
agreeable to
prefer-
council,
I would prefer a motion, please.
fair enough.
Is there anyone that would offer a motion to,
So move.
is there a second?
And that's a $50,000 request from the county budget.
Before we take a
Go
vote,
towards, to go
But
towards.
towards the Gators ball field.
Well, I would like to even go further than that, to go towards the recreation of the county of Nottaway.
Okay.
I mean, it's doing a service to the whole county, whatever it be.
But I'm sure they're going to want
Yeah,
what
field,
capital
yes,
project listed, so
Correct.
concessions.
We gonna talk
are
to
you,
Katie.
are you comfortable with
We'll talk to
making
Katie.
that application, or do you need to get finance committee together, or? Okay, that's fine.
We want to sign it, we can, but however y'all want to do it. But Chris brought that to my attention before the meeting and reading it.
That's this week.
13th of January, when everybody's supposed to have it.
It's Friday, isn't it?
Friday.
Is,
Gotta get on.
you are requesting, were we gonna request money for South Main Street home renovation possibly?
We already have.
As long as, okay.
Haven't heard
I just wanna make sure we didn't drop the
But I'll
ball.
make that a budget request as well, as that may be a holdup for Ted, but I haven't heard anything back. But they've got the money sitting in the bank, and they did a mid-year appropriation for the $50,000 that we're using on the Patterson home, which they should be starting to hit a contract signing earlier this week.
Before we, any other discussion? Before, yes, ma'am.
I want a question about the crosswalk you were saying, with the sidewalks that will be installed later on with that project, with the gutters and all. You're just gonna do one, because there's two entrances, and both of them should really be,
Well, the curb and gutter and sidewalk would be opposite Walmart.
no, I said crosswalk.
Oh, no, I had planned on one right there at the traffic signal, because
What you talking about
you can
that
hang up you'll be able to affect the traffic signal right there.
Is the sidewalk gonna terminate at the first,
It'll terminate the traffic signal, is the plan.
She's
That
talking
part
about
I
the
understood,
Mm-hmm.
but there's still two entrances.
Then I'd have to put up additional traffic signals.
I don't think the sidewalk's going to the second one though.
Yeah, he just said
Is it going to?
Traffic signal's the second entrance.
the light, it's going
The
to the light.
sidewalk is, all the way to the second light too, second entrance?
Well, there's only one light down there, and that's at the second entrance to Walmart. If I'm going down South Main Street, there's one entrance right there where Huddle House is, and then there's a second entrance at Wendy's.
That's the one I'm
There's no
concerned
light,
about.
there's no light now.
There's no light at Huddle House.
Well, then we'd have to include that in the cost. Then we're gonna have to put an additional. I was using what was there, and somebody could push the button and boop, stop the traffic light, and you'd be able to walk across.
It does make sense.
It could end up being a safety issue if we don't.
Yeah.
Can I ask him to come
There may be
back
some
with,
less expensive options, but
Yeah, I just wanted to know.
But a cross arm type like we've got, I think would be pretty expensive. But Jake had a good idea. If you go to a college town, I don't know, Harrisonburg or somewhere like that, they may have some crosswalk options that are less expensive. And
It's not a whole traffic light, push the button and a bunch of lights flash. but
Yeah,
it's
on
not
the
like a
pole,
whole
right?
traffic light. It's just
Yeah, it's on a
It's
pole.
like a light on a sign,
yeah,
right?
something cheaper. Yeah, that's cool.
We haven't voted yet, okay.
Mr. Green was on council.
I was just concerned about that because I know people do cross at their first area now and there's no crosswalk at all or anything.
Run across it. Yeah.
And it's a very unsafe area certain times of the day, rush hours, people
Yes,
going
ma'am.
to work, school, whatnot. So,
Agreed. I think council has endorsed moving forward and doing it.
I'm gonna throw a little mustard seed out there if I might, but between Church Street and Tavern, there's 6 intersections. 5 of the 6 have stoplights.
They do that.
Busiest restaurant in town, and the barber shop, and the beauty shop, and another beauty shop in this area right here, don't have one what is it?
Maple Street.
Yeah, Maple Street.
And I don't know why
I
that
can
is.
sit on that glider out front of the store, and I'll tell you, I can't tell you how many wrecks, near misses there are. I can't believe there aren't more. really, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
People just gun it when they take a shot to get out there, you know. I'm just tossing that out there for a moment.
We, Mr. Green was, or Mayor Green was on council over 4 years ago now, obviously. When we had voted, and it is actually a standing vote, that the speed limit on South Main Street beyond 10th Street is to be 25 miles an hour. It's still 35. And I mean, I think it's something to.
Well, that's on me. I need to get that done.
I
And
think
that's
it's
my.
something if Ms. Wynn's talking about, you know, the safety and, you know, it's a good point. If we're gonna put up a possible makeshift, I wouldn't say makeshift, but not at the traffic signal and bring it further in, you may have to lower that speed limit and actually do 25.
Would you research and that motion and the vote, okay? Just a point of reference, the council is a continuing body, so just because we have 4 new faces, nothing changed, so if this is in effect, then it needs to be taken care of. Before I forget, this is something I came up with. I came up with a Pledge of Allegiance. I've come up with a lot of stuff when I was here, but we started voting at a starting point that alternates every month, and the reason for that is because I grumbled and I said I don't want to be the 3-3 man every time. And that would have been Mr. Quick, I believe, and he was like, "You got that right." So we moved, and I started at my right, and everyone will have a time where they start to vote, just so you don't feel like, number one, your vote doesn't count a lot of times, and number two, you don't have to be the tiebreaker. So
Is January starting, you're gonna start now and it started
start
with
with
Jake,
Mr.
so now we're gonna go this way?
yes, if that's
Or we're gonna
agreeable.
go this way?
I
Yeah,
just
I'm sorry, point of procedure, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind. I think we had that motion on the floor.
we
still?
do. We're gonna
Okay,
try to
just
get
wanna
to
make
it. I forgot what it is. That's about it. But
It was, I think it was
but
for the
anyway,
last,
there has been a call for the question, so
ask the county
I will
for the
ask you
$50,000.
to read the motion again, please.
This, Councilman Miller made a motion and Councilman Nash seconded to have the town manager ask for $50,000 towards the, concession stand.
I'll call for a
Correct.
roll call vote, starting with Mr. Almond.
Aye.
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 Almost pulled the trigger again. It's gonna take me a while. 8 years of
You know what?
saying aye.
And also probably get John Rourke into this too.
I would like, we have a new mayor, we have a new, chairman of the board of supervisors. I would like to take the next couple of months and give Mr. Bowen a chance to get his feet wet, me too, and have a list, and then maybe Mr. Nash and I would set up a meeting and then determine what common ground we have, and try to open up some sort of diplomatic procedure, and it may be that we have to have a joint meeting with them, but there's several issues. I don't wanna make it that quickly. I just like permission from council. The two of us reach out to Chairman Bowen at the perfect time. By common consent? That's good?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Manager, do you have anything else?
No.
Okay. I'm gonna need, we're gonna go into closed session now. Would you provide a motion to the council?
So this is under personnel, correct?
Yes.
All right, so it is for the discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of any public body.
Is there a motion to go in closed session?
Second.
Mr. Nash has made the motion and Mr. Miller has seconded. Does this need to be a roll call?
No.
We will come out and certify, right? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And I do not expect action.
Motion carries. Chief, thank you for your service,
y'all
sir. I
for
think we're
coming.
good. Are
Thank you,
you
Chief.
okay?